Good morning, comrades. You are listening to WHIV-LP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade, Jeff and Robert, here on the show. Robert, what's up, my dude? How you doing?
I mean, the world's falling apart, so I'm falling deeper into distraction.
You know what though, like with the world falling apart piece, like I genuinely feel at this point where the world falling apart piece is kind of just the natural order, like the normal state of affairs. Kind of like when things got normalized with COVID, like it's just like chaos becomes the norm. I feel like we're there, right?
I mean, yeah, kind of. It's amazing to see how quickly things fade in and out of the news cycle, for, you know, the good and the bad of that. And yeah, it's just like I personally have delved into more distraction. Right now, as we talk, I am playing Elite Dangerous. It's the ultimate space dad simulator where I fly my little spaceship.
I've always thought
around.
of you as a space dad, so that's
space dad. Cool. I fly my little spaceship around and I haul stuff from one star system to the other, and it's nice and peaceful. And sometimes I blow stuff up, which is pretty nice. But contemplating on buying the new Doom game, even though I don't like survival games. I'm thinking maybe this might be my thing. Who knows? But other than that, life's okay. I finally got my my college diploma. I haven't gotten it yet, but at least
let's go, big dude. Let's hear it for Robert. Let's go.
Thank you. I got an email that said, "Hey, it's in the mail finally." So that's always nice.
Congratulations to you. What you graduated from the University of Cincinnati with? What
I sure did. In like business application technology, you need a piece of paper so you can maybe get a job overseas when the United States falls apart. That's my degree.
Well, you know what? I mean, obviously, listeners, show some love for your boy. I mean, you deserve it. Like that's going to college, graduating from college. Like there it is. Like obviously, you get the debt piece and all this other stuff. But like,
what? What?
It's a thing. You got the achievement. You know what I mean?
You said I got what? You said I got debt.
You don't got no debt?
What are you talking about? That's I'm in the.
That's right. You're a Marine. I forgot.
Oh no. Montgomery GI Bill has been expired. I am in the free state of Robertstonia, and we don't do student loans here. No sir. Like
okay.
No, they can. Any student loan request I get, I will be sending a picture of a starving Palestinian child and also of HIMARS missile launcher and say, feed them and sell one of those, and I think you'll get your money just fine, because since we're doing a genocide, I am not paying $1. I'm not paying one student loan payment. They're gonna have to garnish my wages, and I'll quit my job and start working under the table. But I guarantee any way I can not fund a genocide, I am going to do. And this is one of the few ways that I can actively make sure that some of my meager earnings are not going to murder Palestinian children.
You're doing your part, right? But yeah, I mean, the hold on, the not murdering Palestinian children piece, I totally understand, and not wanting to be a part of. He's back.
I'm back.
Not wanting to be a part of, contributing to the United States government and all this other stuff. But regardless of the debt piece, which we hung on, congratulations to Robert. Obviously, it's
credit score means nothing. Debt means nothing. The world's going to end anyway.
Degree means ultimately nothing at the end of the day, but it means something in this very moment to you and to me, and I think that we should celebrate you for that moment. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. But honestly, I will be going. I'm doing my CTEFL certificate right now, so I can.
Your what?
CTEFL. It's a teaching certificate for teaching people who's teaching English for people who English
Abroad,
is not their native
right?
language. Yeah. Or just not there. So either I'm gonna that can be a way to immigrate somewhere else, or I can get a gig, teaching English online, which a lot of people do now anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to school and just get degree and just keep stacking degrees because
my man is gonna have.
I'm not gonna be in hospice, be like, oh, finals, because I'm not paying student loans.
I'm buying Cammy and I'm buying Chun-Li Street Fighter figures. You're getting degrees and putting that in your background, and that's just how it works. You're two different lives.
I mean, it's not that I'm any better. Like, the main motivation is to duck student loan payments. So
God bless, bro.
I mean, people are saying like, hey, like junior colleges need to start promoting, hey, we can do a Saturday class that's, for an hour and a half long every other Saturday. And that way you could just keep taking classes and keep getting your student loans deferred.
Keep it moving.
Yep.
I guess I did want to sort of kind of touch on a specific point too. I mean, you mentioned the genocide that's taking place in Israel. Maybe a little bit more about
where's it taking place?
Is not real, I guess.
Okay.
You
I
call
so.
it
In the north of Ireland, in the the north of Ireland. No,
it's very well. It's south.
Israel. I don't know her. Who's
that? Not real. But anyway, there is a genocide taking place for people who have not been paying attention to anything that they see anywhere in the world. They've just had their eyes closed, their fingers in their ears, and they've been saying no, 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 no. But there's also been in this process, especially in the past couple of months, a sort of a fake relief effort that the Israeli government and the United States in comparison in like cooperation have been rolling out. What do you know about this sort of like Gaza relief group?
I mean, I know it was a setup for
the whole point of it is to
be murdered by American mercenaries
and create a slaughter, essentially, right?
Yeah. It's set up for American mercenaries to open fire on hungry and desperate people. I know that.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you do have well-meaning, if not, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but like potentially doomed operations like this Gaza flotilla that's taking place, led by genuine. Look, bro, I genuinely think people like Greta Thunberg are, whether or not they're actually heroes or whatever the hell, like I don't really care. They're good, well-meaning people who intend to do good things in the world, and I think that's awesome, right?
It is.
Be it her like literally putting her life on the line to deliver goods to the starving and dying people of Gaza, or even if it's just like, they're not even necessarily at the same level, but like Miss Rachel just sort of like humanizing a Palestinian child who had their double amputee who had gotten her legs blown off. I do think it's worth at least sort of paying attention and highlighting the efforts of folks that are making this kind of stuff happen, right?
Right. No, for sure. I mean, I don't think it's, I mean, you say it's doomed, but I don't want to.
I hope it's not doomed. Maybe I'm just being a pessimist here.
The move for Israel right now.
Can you just talk about the flotilla before we get into that part? Just sort of like describe the whole deal.
Well, I actually brought up Al Jazeera, and I can actually read it here. Who's aboard the Medellin Gaza flotilla, and where has it reached so far? And let's see here. The Medellin ship, launched by Freedom Flotilla Coalition, is en route to Gaza, carrying humanitarian aid and human rights activists protesting against Israel's blockade of the Strip. The vessel has set sail in response to Israel's total aid blockade of the Palestinian enclave since March 2nd, which has resulted in the deaths of children due to starvation. More than 90% of the enclave's 2.3 million are facing acute food shortages, according to Aid Group.
Oh, they are literally starving Gaza right now.
Mm-hmm,
that's
absolutely.
the whole point.
Let's see. The Medellin, named after Gaza's first and only fisherwoman, departed Katiana Sicily on June 1st. Just 1 month after Israeli drones bombed the Conscience, another aid flotilla off the coast of Malta. Let's see here. The ship's location is being tracked by live trackers. And here's what I think is important. Let's talk about who's on board. So there's a bunch of activists that, we've never really heard of, and I don't mean to diminish them.
Yeah. They're
There's
led by
Omar.
Greta Thunberg, who's
Well, I was going to get to that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like there's Omar Fareed, who is French, and they're an Al Jazeera correspondent. Greta Thunberg, but probably the most important person on here is Rima Hassan, who is a French Palestinian member of the European Parliament. So we're going to see how crazy Israel decides to be here. The Zionist state decides to be here. Are they willing to do violence again? And are they willing to do violence and to potentially murder a member of the EU Parliament while the world has quickly turned against them? I don't know the answer. The move, honestly, for if I was Bibi Netanyahu, I would demand an order that ship land safely and offload their goods and be allowed to turn around and leave. Because one, you're going to be able to control what happens to those goods after they get offloaded, and then you can make up whatever story you want. Mm-hmm. But if they do violence against this ship like they've done in the past, if they do what Lindsey Graham wants to do and kill 22-year-old Greta Thunberg and kill this this member of EU Parliament, it'll be one more atrocity on top of a heap of atrocities.
Thrown in a pile, yeah.
But who said it? A million deaths is a statistic. One death is a tragedy. I think it was Stalin who actually.
Stalin quote, yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that people sink their meat hooks into, and I mean people, I mean normies, and that's the kind of stuff that can bring down a government, a society. It's just you don't know what honestly, I'm not even being facetious here. It's kind of the Miss Rachel effect, to where Miss Rachel, as inconsequential she is, the harder they go at her, like the more and more it feels like this was the turning point of like breaking the back of Zionism and like the boat, the super tanker of like people's actual humanity, for good or for bad reasons, for cynical reasons or for actual, what are y'all doing? What is going on? That ship has made a turn and it's heading in the other direction to stay with the ocean theme that we've got going on here.
Well, I think
I don't want to poo-poo this. I don't want to poo-poo this.
No. And I think I agree with you from the perspective of this is the effort that is taking place because Gaza is being literally starved. The people of Gaza who don't want to and can't leave their homes because they have no right to go back there if they leave them, even though they have been bombed, and all of the homes and neighborhoods that they have been bombed, and they replaced those homes with tents, and those things have been bombed. And in that process as well, the same people have been starved by the same forces that are doing the exact same violence in the first place. Like the idea that an effort like this that is so public, that is so high profile, I hope that it's high profile enough that Tom, Dick, and Harry, just a normal person, could just sort of like look at this moment and what is going on and see that the bad guys here are not what the Israeli government and the United States government and all of Western media is saying. Is like you can say that that Greta Thunberg is Hamas, and you can say that Miss Rachel is Hamas, and you can say all this stuff over and over again. The burden, I suppose, in this entire deal is to prove that because the power does not necessarily, at least not in the sort of most not in this sort of like static situation, it doesn't lie in the hands of like normal people. These people have the power structures that exist have the sort of like initiative and advantage to sort of determine what is and what isn't, what isn't like right quote unquote, on the front end, but at this point, it's just so disproportionate. It's so obvious that the bad guys are the ones that are bombing the hospitals, that are bombing the schools, that are bombing the neighborhoods, and that are bombing the tent camps that are replacing them when the physical structures are gone. And you're also potentially going to, hopefully not, but it's a possibility, take away or arrest or potentially kill. Like these people are not playing around. They're putting their lives on the line. Like if Israel just decided to kill sink this flotilla, like it would be fairly, I would hope, obvious to the average person that's worried about their jalapeno poppers and the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever, that the bad guys here are Israel and the United States and the West more broadly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, it's not a pushback, but
No.
to give you my
bless,
idea on it is that I don't think when you talk about, the hogs and their jalapeno poppers, we're talking about Americans. To me, that's done.
Bro, I like jalapeno poppers. I'm talking about myself here.
No, I mean, right? Like, you're talking about Americans, and like for the most part, we're too far gone. We're just we're in
the United States, but like other places as well.
Well,
right?
That's my hope, and that's what I'm seeing is that other countries have the EU,
bro,
especially the EU, are not
Lynch.
dealing
You know,
with
Becky Lynch is the wrestler.
Yeah,
she posted a Miss Rachel post on her Instagram story. He's talking about not bombing Palestinians, which is just like, again, it's another one of these sort of situations where
isn't she Irish?
Yes, she's Irish.
I would expect nothing less.
Common Irish W.
Yeah.
But it's also like one of these normie people that have normie contact with other normies that have influence in normie spaces that you wouldn't otherwise think about. That is, I think, influential. I think it's important, and I think it's worth it's worth commenting on. Like the fact that Becky Lynch, the professional wrestler, she's the man or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
She's decided that she's going to lift that up. I mean, I think it's, obviously not doing celebrity worship or anything like that, but it's a bellwether for this breaking through to normies, right?
No, for sure. And I'm going to say something. It's a joke, obviously. We're talking about very serious things, but that's how talking about pro wrestling and especially the WWE, that's how like Vince McMahon is out, and he also lost it, because if Vince McMahon, if this was Vince McMahon of 20 years ago, they'd be Becky Lynch and Sami Zayn would be a stable right now.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn would just be like in a Hamas outfit, like with the green headband, and Becky Lynch would have an M16 and a balaclava. And
that would be so cool.
An IRA last.
I would love that.
It'd be so sick, dude. It'd be so sick.
Sami Zayn also is another one of those guys, which it would be a little bit more like expected for him to say the things that he's been saying. He's been very, very pro Palestine in this entire struggle, even if he's being a little bit sort of cagey with the way that he communicates it, because he works for the evil demon company or whatever.
Sure.
But like, I don't know. I am very happy to support people that are able to, even in oblique ways, that come out and support these things, because we need all types. We need all supports. We need all kinds of people to recognize what is happening and push back against it. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to my point of like, I don't care. And like, again, we were talking about, Americans, like, because even us, like, we can only see things through the perspective of just like how Americans think and feel about that. And that day is over. Like, we're at the beginning of the end of the American empire. Just like we're at the end of Zionism, and we're at the beginning of the end of the American empire. So honestly, I don't care what Americans think about anything. As an American myself, somebody who's I've pledged fiefdom and took an oath to the Constitution twice in my life, once as a cop and once in the Marine Corps. But I understand that this thing's done. This thing's over. And I don't care what we're going out anyway. We're losing smoke. We're losing motion. Countries blow us off. They're not concerned with what we have to say about anything, but it's the rest of the world that Israel is not going to be able to have normal relations with, no matter what. We were talking about this off air. Even if Israel completed their genocide and expanded Greater Israel, what happens the day after that? They're going to be they're going to be treated by the rest of the world, no matter what happens. It doesn't matter what happens now, because at least when the Nazis lost World War II, they had unconditional surrender. So it was our responsibility to go in and rebuild them.
Berlin was literally sacked. Like,
yeah,
there's been a sacking of a city like that in like 1,000 years.
But with Israel, if they don't have a complete, coup or some kind of complete collapse of society, they're never going to have the status in the world that they had before. They're never the Asian countries that, China's going to be, it's going to be a Chinese century. They're going to be the new, to quote, that other Nazi, they're going to be the new hyperpower.
Who's that?
I'm thinking of? Who was that? Gorka. Sebastian Gorka.
Yeah.
I want America to be a hyperpower, not a superpower. I don't know that. But no, they're going to be the new hyperpower.
So stupid. He's like the dumbest guy ever. He's like basically Rudolph Giuliani with an accent, right?
Right. So it's going to be, who's going to support Israel after this? America, maybe India, a bunch of other little weird countries that are our client states. But Europe's gone, Asia's gone. What? They're not going to be able to conduct business with any other country except us and the weird little client states that we have control over, that are going to, as soon as we fall down in 50 more years and we're dead in the ground, those countries are going to break away anyway, because why be a client state to a dead empire? Mm-hmm. They're done, dude. They're done. It's just, the sick thing is how many people are going to die before they realize they're done.
Yeah. And again, I mentioned this before, and I actually probably say it so much that it's like annoying. And I'm not even in this to sort of like defend China or defend Chinese imperialism or whatever the hell. Like, that's not my point. But the way that they are engaging with their sort of creating their sphere of influence and creating essentially their own set of client states. The United States' version is especially acutely when it comes to Trump and the cutting off of things like UNRWA and cutting off of the sort of like, softer points of the imperial side of America, right? Mm-hmm. China is, and if you're a Uyghur or whatever, you might feel differently about this, but if you're if you're someone who is in a potentially a Chinese colony, you are seeing infrastructure being built, you're seeing roads being paved, you're seeing sewage being constructed in such a way that the balance of your lot in life is potentially better than it was prior to the sort of intervention of China. And
well, it's simple. When you look at history, at history, we have conducted business like Rome.
U.S. used to do this. I'm not even trying to.
No, it was carrot and stick. If you didn't want to listen to us, and you didn't want to let us build infrastructure, then you got the stick. I
don't think that's different than what China
doing. No, it is different, because China will just walk away from you. Here's the difference, because what I was saying is, America, the way that we project empire is like Rome. The way the Chinese, if you're any kind of student of history, from what I'm seeing, and I'd love to talk to somebody who actually, is a scholar who knows a lot about a student of this, but just as a layman, what I'm seeing, they're conducting empire like the Persian Empire. And I know this is kind of crass, and I mean this in the most respectful way, because like genocides aren't good and war crimes aren't good, but I think in a lot of ways, when you look at history, I think the rape of Nanking saved them, because what the Japanese, what I'm saying is, what the Japanese did to them was so awful that it changed collectively a societal lens to where, like, yes, we do not want to be on the wrong side of something like that, and they never conducted empire like that, to where we always have. The Japanese.
But you're not defending that. You're just saying that.
No, it's not a defense. I'm saying that.
They don't want to have that ever happen to them ever again.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's the idea of, and this again, this sounds very crass, but it's like the idea of, like, we know what it's like to have our hand pressed on the stove, and we don't want to go through that. And we saw what happened in Japan.
or
like,
even
let's not do that.
even
Because
be a
even
little
with the
bit more
Uyghur
cold
Muslims,
about it,
even with the
to be more
Uyghurs,
cold about it, to be like, hey, we know what it's like to be subjugated to another power, and we never want to be in that position again.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that, love it or lump it, whatever we're actually doing to other people, we're in the dominant position, which is what the United States also believes. However,
but we don't do it.
Well, I would say again, and this is what I do think it's a genuine deterioration, because we don't build things like even like the Panama Canal. That's not something that the United States would ever do in the year 2025. We, as far as the West, we are much more comfortable finding a strongman, some kind of like Saddam Hussein or some kind of a leader who will have the biggest guy with the biggest gun, who will maintain order. And that is the sort of idea of America, which is, by the way, quite, in terms of my non-scholarly analysis, comparable to late Roman, like fall of Roman Empire structure. Sort of this is the way that they would sort of align themselves or orient themselves, as opposed to, again, non-scholarly. I'm not a person that is sort of like, I'm not necessarily qualified to make these kinds of comparisons, I guess you could say, in terms of making academic comparisons this way, but in the early Roman era, quote unquote, whatever the hell, but you would see, as far as places like Britain, from Rome, they would be building aqueducts, they would be building roads, they would be building places and things that actually improved the lives of the people that were there, whether or not they were under the Roman yoke, right? And right now, the United States, what the hell has the United States done for the Middle East, for Afghanistan, for Iraq, for any of these places, that isn't just like, give me your oil, give me your resources, and you get nothing other than the gun? You know what I mean?
That. And I want, like, even when you talk about like the Uyghur Muslims,
this is late empire stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're dying. But even when you talk about the Uyghur Muslims, like, China backed off on that. As soon as it became like world press and worldwide media got in there and been like, what are y'all doing? They backed off. They backed off on all that. And there are some cultural differences that I've come to understand about China, is that because it is such, like, geographically a vast land, to where the way I understand it, and the way
China's huge. China's so huge.
The way I have read is that we're not trying to homogenize culture. So being Chinese isn't a race, it's a culture. So it's like, you can all have different cultures, but understand that you're all Chinese and we're all under this same umbrella. It's the way I've read it.
That is American too, actually comparable to American.
But we don't do
like
that.
Texans or whatever.
We don't really do that. Mm-hmm. Like, the way I've understood it is this. It's like, okay, so a child, let's say two black people immigrated to China, right? And then because this is a story I've actually read, like, from, these people, like, two black people immigrate to China. They have a child in China. That child is an African child, right? But because that child is brought up in Chinese culture, you are not just, it doesn't say Chinese it says Chinese on your passport, but we're not talking about that. You are culturally Chinese.
Okay.
Like, oh, you are Chinese because you are one of us. You eat the same foods. You live in the same land. We have the same customs. You are Chinese. Yes, you might be African, but you are one of us. That's just the things that I've been told firsthand from people who live there. And I just want to be clear about what I said about Nanking. I guess I'm going to, just to clarify, I want to say, like, imagine a world. Imagine if you could go back in time where it's like, in the United States, the French, the Spanish, and, the new Americans are all scrambling for for North America, right? Imagine a time where the new Americans decide, hey, we got to move these native indigenous people on, and we're going to kill them. And there would be a pushback from the French and the Spanish, and they thumped us on our head in a war and said, you are not going to do that. And now we're there licking our wounds from that. imagine like how much that would have changed us as a culture.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, oh, I guess you can't really get away with this, to where, because geographically, once we dominated the American landscape, because we're, North America, South America, Pacific and Atlantic, we're protected from any kind of external invasion by geography. We've just thrown our weight around and just could do whatever we wanted. So now, and so like, we've never had to worry about, the rape of Seattle.
No.
Some other country coming in and being
it's
like,
not real.
It's some man in the high castle thing.
So
but
like
imagine
the
if
idea
did, how that would
the idea of that
us.
happening, the difference between the United States and China, between the like you said, the rape of Nanking happening, between that happening within sort of like, living human memory, yes. It is so much closer than for China and for what happened there than it is for the United States, who has been essentially solid since like the War of 1812.
Yes. Exactly.
Or the Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, if you want to count that the same, which many people would, and I think I would as well. As someone who lives in Virginia, especially. Dude, I've been driving around just sort of like as an aside. Like, it's kind of crazy, but like I've been doing a lot of like the work that I do for my job. I drive to a lot of places. And like I'm literally just driving past a bunch of Civil War battlefields all the time. It's crazy.
I'm going to Gettysburg next year. Like next year is my first time going, so that should.
Well, come on down, bro. Come say hey. Come to Richmond. We gotta hang out. It's been too long. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning Comrade. GoodMorningComrade.com. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Bluesky. What else are we posting? Man, we gotta.
You posting a Bluesky?
We have a Bluesky account. I thought.
I don't be posting over. I be on there. I be on there telling them on X. Tell them if you don't like what I'm saying to you, go cry to Grok. Go cry. Go cry to the X. Community standards team.
Community notes.
There are none. Which they are none.
No. Speaking of X community notes. The biggest community that I have noticed today, and this really made me like, look, I am a heartless person, right? I am not the kind of person that would ever cry, that would ever get upset, that would ever like really, worry about these kind of issues of my faves and my heroes and my goats. Arguing and fighting with one another. But when I saw Kanye West post that, oh no, bros, I'm so sad that you guys are fighting. We love you both. It really just broke my heart in half. I couldn't believe that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, two of the most important figures in the United States, the two most titanic figures that exist in our world, the two paragons of, or as Jack Posobiec would say, where is it? Hold on one second. Hold on. I gotta find it.
I know what you're saying. Go ahead and find it, but I'm always up for some pedophile violence.
Yeah, no. Here it is. Jack Posobiec. Some of y'all can't handle two high agency males going at it, and it really shows. This is a direct communication, phallocentric versus indirect communication, gynocentric. I understand you aren't used to it. That's right. That is right, folks. The girlies are fighting Donald Trump versus Elon Musk. I never thought I would see the day.
Bro, it's so nice to see. Like, I don't know. It's good entertainment, but so, and like I said, I love that the richest man in the world.
It's over the big beautiful bill, not the big beautiful bill.
I'm really enjoying that the richest man in the world is who is for right now because he's leveraged so hard into Tesla stock, which is falling like a stone. But the richest man in the world is
15% today, by the way.
Absolutely,
as of the last time I looked at it.
The richest man in the world is calling the worst man in the world a pedophile when they're both pedophiles. I just absolutely, I'm here for it. Talking about the reason why the Epstein files aren't coming out is because, Trump sent them, which is 100% true. No lies detected. The worst guy just made a point. Like, no, absolutely. Have you seen, so on a smaller, like, but here's the craziest thing about it. And the craziest thing about it is the thing that we really got to look out for in my like wet dream scenario is that Doge was not even a federal agency for real. All those employees were loyal to Elon. They weren't even federal employees who were going.
Big Balls is not loyal to the U.S. like the idea of the United States or any kind of higher.
What I'm saying is, this guy has so much access, and he knows where the bodies are buried, and he's like literally loyal to no one. So what's he gonna do? Like, he could just drop something crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like what's the joke we always make? That copy of the Zapruder film with that angle nobody's seen before. Like, he could drop something that earth-shattering on X.
On Twitter. Just put it on Twitter. Yeah.
The guy sucks. Like, Elon Musk obviously sucks. His cars are ugly and they're garbage. Big up BYD, big up China. But it's like they're trash cars. But what he does, nobody likes him.
We gotta get somebody on to talk about BYD just generally. I would actually be very interesting interview.
No, they rule. But what Musk does have is a whole social media platform that's used by millions and millions of people. He's like the kid in your neighborhood that nobody really likes, but he's the only kid whose parents could afford to buy him a Sega CD. So like, we're all going over there, right? Like, we're all going because we got to play the Sega CD. Like, he's the one kid on the block with high-speed internet. Like, so that's where you're going to have your LAN parties. Nobody really likes him though. So he could drop something crazy.
You're not the only person that thinks this way, because I just came across it, hit my radar because I am just sort of like obsessed with the Democrats. This article in Politico, which is Dems a villain to ally arc for Musk.
They're so stupid, dude. I hate the Democrats.
Welcome to Politico's West Wing playbook, remaking government. Elon Musk has been the Democratic Party's boogeyman since shortly after President Donald Trump deputized him as top economic advisor. Blah, 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 blah. Representative Ro Khanna.
He's the absolute worst. Garbage waste man.
Who represents Silicon Valley has known Musk for over a decade, said Democrats should, quote, be in a dialogue with Musk, given their shared opposition to GOP's mega bill. So like that, you know what that is? And you know what? This is sort of like something that my brain can't help but connect. So like the Young Turks, right? Cenk Uygur has long been a Ro Khanna dick rider, like for as long as I can remember.
2731.
What does that mean?
So you can edit that out.
Oh, okay. No, I think we can say that. But like,
okay, I didn't know.
You meant 37.
Yeah. Okay. FCC warrior. All right.
Regardless, he has been a rider. He's been a midnight rider for Ro Khanna since, as long as I can remember, Ro Khanna being a figure on the national stage. Cenk Uygur has been kind of a guy for that, right?
Yeah.
He's been a Ro Khanna defender much more than he's been like a Bernie guy or even a Warren guy. He's been, and the Young Turks have been Ro Khanna guys. And Ro Khanna has always been, this is one of the things that always kind of like never worked for me with him in particular, is that he is a Silicon Valley like billionaire type guy. He represents that. Honestly, I think he represents that district quite well, considering that is the Silicon Valley district, right?
Right.
So I don't know, man. Like the idea of him being the sort of like tip of the spear for any kind of left movement or whatever is silly, obviously. But like the idea that he would be the first person to sort of like bend the knee to be like, be my friend, Elon Musk, be my friend after all of this stuff, is also just like not surprising, right?
That guy is as far away from being any kind of shade of left as I am from being in the abyssal zone of the ocean as I sit here in my office. Like, no, I mean, we even get caught up in saying that kind of stuff. Like, we gotta stop. We gotta stop calling, say, like, even left. Like, these people are not left. These people are not even left adjacent. They're just corporate slugs They're
like all the people that shit on AOC or whatever, 3050, but like all the people that shit on AOC and talk about how she's co-opted, and that's like fine or whatever. I don't really care about that.
it's
but
true,
like
but
whether
yeah,
or not
I feel
it
the same
is,
way. It's true.
whether or
but
not it's true, but like
yeah.
there's a difference between the AOCs of the world and the Rokanas of the world.
Of course,
Like, I
order
think
of
that's really
operations. Order of
indisputable.
operations. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, order of operations for sure. She's the last one of the bums that gets thrown out. Like order of
Okay.
operations. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But no, just the Democratic Party trying to cuddle up immediately. Their first.
Oh, he's not the only one. Don't worry. We got Richie Torres. We got Liam
of
Kerr.
course.
We've got Brett Schneider. We've got Greg Kassar, by the way, who's like one of these like progressive caucus guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like there is a certain number of people who are sort of like trying to even brand themselves as a, quote unquote lefty, quote unquote progressive or whatever, who as soon as the air sort of like opens up, want to just start like opening the door to sort of like suck that musk, start vaping that musk air. It's really gross.
I mean, but the thing you've got to take hope if you want to get really hope cord about it is that these kids out here are not falling for it like we did with Clinton or Obama. They're not. They're not trying to hear it. These politically active kids are not trying to hear this. They're not trying to hear about no abundance economy. They're not trying to hear about no Elon Musk. They're not trying to hear about none of that.
Well, it's not just that, but also they're showing themselves again. And now is an opportunity, at least from where we sit, from our perspective, to say, like, here are the people who pretend to be the thing that they, on the tin, they represent themselves as, right? They're branding themselves that it's like a progressive or whatever the hell. And you can essentially like look at a moment like this, a moment like when Elizabeth Warren decides to rat F Bernie, or a moment where, somebody like this, comes up and is like, hey, actually, we need to start palling around with Elon Musk or whatever it is, and be like, okay, that is not somebody we can trust as far as a broader movement goes, right? And that's the thing I think is important.
No, I agree with you. No, again, like I said, broken clock, but order of operations for sure. Yeah, and you've just got to sort out like what is, if somebody's running, you've got to be like, okay, who are they running against? What district? Like, should determine your support.
Hyper specific
things. Yeah. But if somebody who's just shown over and over again, they're these weird, like Aussie Fest abundance, corporate slugs, like the thing that AM turns the last human survivor into in I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And they're only, the only thing they're subservient it to is if Elon Musk you're talking about a guy again with no motion. Nobody likes this guy. Everybody likes this guy. The only thing the Democratic Party is looking at is this guy is a majority shareholder in Tesla and dollars, which he might not even have in the next coming month because his stock that he is over leveraged in is dropping like a stone. That's all they see, and it's absolutely gross. It's just like, what is going on with y'all? So,
but it is helpful from the perspective, and I do also think that this is important too, because like there are areas and there are places, because there has been this sort of like, we must resist Trump, like sort of general attitude. And you would ultimately see the Democrats' strategy in terms of fighting against specific things be like nothing, right? They wouldn't do anything. They won't say anything. Like this big, beautiful bill, like idea that's supposed to like cut Medicaid and cut like government programs and be huge, giveaways to the government. To the richest people in the world. Like the Democrats themselves are not interested in fighting against this. The Democrats are not interested. Like Elon Musk is more interested in fighting against the big, beautiful bill that is a tax giveaway to billionaires because it's not enough austerity than the Democrats are. And that's really interesting to me, not necessarily as a like, wow, we're in such a great political situation or whatever, but also from the perspective of like, these people have no ideas, they have no motion, no whatever. Chuck Schumer just this past week started talking about the taco Trump thing, right? You know, the Trump always chickens out. Like, that was something that was initially applied on the tariffs or whatever, and like, I think it's this dumb, stupid idea in perspective. But he is talking about using that as not a way to get Trump to do something that is a good policy. He is basically using that to say, hey, Trump is going to cut a deal with Iran that would not start a war with Iran. Like, that is what the Democrats leader, literally their leader in the Democratic leadership of the Senate, is more interested in not huge giveaways to billionaires, not cutting Medicaid and Medicare and all these government programs. He's much more interested in softening. He's against softening relations with Iran, which, I don't know, bro. I think a war with Iran would be bad. I don't know if you agree with me. I imagine you do. But the fact that using this idea of like anti-Trumpism, pushing back against Trump to do bad things, to do things that are necessarily pro-imperialism, like, the Democrats are so cooked, bro. Like, and again, this is one of those things where I keep looking at the sort of situation, and I'm just like, the Democrats are cooking themselves, and they are burning themselves down to a situation where someone like a Zohran Mamdani can take over. I don't know if you feel the same way. Do you think that the Democrat machine can sort of like kill something like that? Is that even you? Okay.
Yeah, there's enough. So we talked about this a little bit off air. It's like, I've been kind of staying off the Zohran, you know.
Which, by the way, I want to contextualize this as well, because I think that specifically the office of Mayor of the United States, Mayor of New York City, rather, in terms of like a future in politics, is there could not be more of a dead end. Like, if you're the mayor of New York City, your political future is cooked.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So, like, if I kind of think if Zohran wins, like, that's bad for him. You know?
No, I mean, it's whatever. It doesn't even matter. You're thinking like you're putting cart before every single horse there ever was.
Yeah.
First thing you got to worry about is, like, now that he's scratching up against Cuomo, the Democratic Party, why aren't they just going to do what they always do and just absolutely crush and rat F anything that stands in their way? Democratic Party, they'll find out a way. They did it to India Walton. They did it to Bernie twice. They'll figure it out.
Here's something.
The three things the Democratic Party can do is ride for Israel, brush up to technocracy.
Yeah, that's true.
And rat fuck. Now you got to edit something.
Oh, buddy, I'm gonna be busy. Don't worry.
And rat F everybody to the left.
Okay,
that's the three things they're good at.
Let me just jump in for 1 second here. And I do think that making them show their hand in the rat fucking does matter. Like, making them do it in 4K for people to see it happen. I don't know, man. I
mean, it didn't work when they did it to Bernie twice.
They did it to Bernie, they did it to India Walton, but I do think that we're in a different position now than we were then. There is more contextual evidence to make the argument that the Democratic establishment is going to do that. I think I'm not putting all my fucking eggs in the cart of like winning an electoral, election or whatever for it, but I do think that the more that they flex that fucking bullshit, the more that they have to sort of like explain why they did that. And there can't be enough emergencies for that to continuously be the case without them being, I don't know. I feel like there are more normies that are ready to sort of like overwhelm that sort of like glass ceiling that they're trying to like tamp down on. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and then I can tell you that the tired attacks, they're gonna have to come up with something new because they're not working anymore. If you watched, you know, I don't expect, because people aren't us and aren't going to sit up and watch.
People aren't idiots. Like us. They're not
and gonna watch an
morons like us. They didn't watch the fucking
New York mayoral
debate like morons like we are.
You know, you're not going to be able to call the man an anti-Semite because he, as the mayor of New York, said he wouldn't go to Israel. Like, what kind of question was that? That was the most disgusting,
the dumbest question imaginable.
It wasn't even dumb.
Why would the mayor of New York go to Israel?
You know, it's like,
unless you're Eric Adams, who is the coolest mayor of all time.
Well, he would just get more bribes from Turkey. But it's not even a dumb question. It's a disgusting question.
Look, bro, you call free flights bribes? Come on, man.
If you want to align, if you want to have, you know, if you want to reach across the aisle, if Democrats are really serious about like, how are we going to get young men back, and how are we gonna get, you know, all these Trump voters back on our, you know, the Obama coalition back, if they were really serious about that, if they really cared, the first thing you would do is distance yourself from Israel. You would go, hey, MAGA. Hey, Trump voter. Hey, young man who feels disenfranchised.
Jalapeno popper eater.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have health care at your work. Hey, do you know that here's the percentage of your federal taxes that go to Israel every year? Is that winning? Is that making America first? Is that putting America first when all your money goes to Israel? That's what you would say, but the Democratic Party will never touch that because they don't. How many times do we have to say this? They're not serious people.
Not as presently constructed.
They're not serious people, and they don't want power. They actively run from power. Yeah. They want to brush right up enough against power that rich people, you know, want to have them for some kind of influence, honestly, but they really don't want the power.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. And I genuinely, to the depths of my bones, feel this. They are 100% fine with everything that the sort of like Trump agenda is, except they want to make sure they don't like the nakedness of it. They don't like the fact that it is out there in the open, not because they don't agree with it, because they feel, I'm talking about the liberals and the Democrats, they feel like it is a threat to the stability of the system that is doing those things. The class that is implementing these policies and the class that is essentially cleaning up behind them is the mainstream political class. And the only thing, at least in terms of like, you know, outside of any kind of, you know, armed revolution or anything like that, the only political threat to them is people like Zohran Mamdani and AOC and, you know, the Jamal Bowmans or the Rashida Tlaibs and Ilhan Omar, because they're the only ones that stand against that, or the only ones that will even like obliquely threaten those things. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense, and that's why they're always punching left. They're always punching actual leftists, but they never have smoke for the right wing. It's always just like, hey, there's a bunch of Nazis out there who listen to Joe Rogan. How can we get the Nazis to vote for
Joe Rogan? Is not the enemy. Joe Rogan himself is not the enemy.
Like, that's not my point. My point is that they're constantly like, how can we buddy up to people who actively hate us?
Yes,
instead of people that
it's all
are actually
all
on our team.
And it's all optics and orientation to them. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like the way that the Democrats orient themselves is they have this sort of agenda, and man, we should do a whole entire episode on this welcome fest that happened this past week. This sort of like centrist Coachella.
It's like 30 people showed up for that too, which is great. It's such a good sign. Like I said, the things that sucked us in, the things that, you know, got me to knock doors for Obama twice and vote for Al Gore when I was in Japan, you know, as Democrat abroad, like those lines, that third way is not working on these kids, and I'm so here for it.
I also don't think those things are the same as they were then, because there wasn't a degree in Obama. There was a degree of earnestness in at least the supporters of Obama, not necessarily Obama himself, but the people that supported Obama wanted a change. And what Obama represented himself as, falsely as it turned out, obviously, but what he represented himself as, because he is a, for all of his problems, for all of his faults, a supremely talented politician and a cipher for people's ideas, and there was an ability of people, like the fact, look, dude, bro, I just watched a fucking Julian Wright video like a couple of weeks ago. His goddamn America speech, like the fact that he was the pastor for Obama made Obama so freaking cool. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. The amount of times I've watched that.
Yeah.
It's
so
cool.
that was a perfect, like obviously Obama took the opportunity to denounce himself from that or whatever. But there was this sort of sense that people had, it was misplaced, obviously, but there was this sense that people had in Obama that he was actually here to change stuff. And when he got elected and reality set in, that could not be further from the truth.
No,
and that is, again, that set the stage, that set the table. And I feel like I repeat myself way too much when I say this over and over and over again. That disappointment, that level of people being pissed off at the Obamas for not doing the thing that they had sort of like represented themselves that they would do, that opens the door for a Trump. That opens the door for the reactionaries. So when you represent yourself as a revolutionary, which Obama kind of did, and you don't provide that, you give the right everything that they ever wanted.
I agree. I mean, 100%. It's just like, because if they're not gonna, I don't know, they're not gonna do the people's business.
Yeah.
Well, at least the right wing is gonna throw white meat at people.
Red meat.
White meat. Jeez, Pete. You know what? I said that. It's because I'm looking at like Wolfenstein, the new Wolfenstein popped up on my Steam page where I'm trying.
I like fish as much as the next guy, but people just love that red meat.
They do. That white meat. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks. Anyway, we live in hell.
Yeah, we live in hell. This is hell, and we're living in it. But I do like again. I do feel that there is possibilities of the way out. Obviously, I must be an optimist in the work that I do every day, organizing workers. Like if I wasn't an optimist about it, I wouldn't even do this show. Because like I don't do this whole thing because I just want to sort of like yell into the ether, and I don't think you do either. I feel like we do this because we can talk to somebody and maybe change somebody's mind. I don't know.
I mean, I'd hope so. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say it's not cathartic, because it totally is. But
it's totally cathartic.
I hope that's the case for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, stay tuned for some new good interviews. I got a couple of them on deck. Hopefully, it'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. Schedule is a little bit crazy, but Robert, what you want to say before we go?
Find me in Dune Awakening. I don't know what server I'm going to be on, but find me. I'm out there. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're gonna check it out. We're gonna see. Of course, we're playing as the only faction you can play as, the Freemen. Like there is no other. We're not playing as Harkonnens. Like we're not doing that. Absolutely not. Not gonna play as Israel. Sorry.
Yeah. When did you drop the Street Fighter 6? You got a feeling on that?
It's a good game. I'm glad you enjoy it. I just don't have I'm faded into dad gaming, dude. Like dad gaming is so comfortable. It's so comfortable. You just put on your VR headset and just become a space trucker. You should try it sometime.
Well, thanks to everybody for listening. We love you. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. 6 years. 6 MFing years of Good Morning Comrade. Can you believe it, bro?
It feels very short. One hundo.
That's because we're having a good time.
But again, we got projects in the work, and hopefully we will all see the fruition of these projects coming soon to a community radio station near you, which is WHIV.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. And this WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been